Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Excited for today's meetup, for our March meetup, second one of 2023. We're going to continue the same theme. TJ introduced Docker to us in January and kind of what I would call vanilla Docker setup. And now we have Randy Fay from DDEV, who's going to talk about using DDEV, which is kind of another layer on top of Docker to make Docker management easy. I'm not going to say those words. He'll tell you all about what it is here in a minute. So just want to do my normal spiel. Of course, our conference committee, you guys know all these people by now. Make sure to give them some love in Slack or wherever you see them. Give them a pat on the back. We organize these events throughout the year. Of course, have our spring conference and fall summit in the fall. Lots of work goes into these events throughout the year for the community. And just like we were talking about on our meeting yesterday, we do it because we love you guys, love the community, and excited about what we do together. Code of conduct, of course, you can go to eeconf.com/code of conduct. It's really important to us as a community that we protect our community, that we take care of each other. Basically the rule is don't be a jerk. And if you see anybody being a jerk, I want you to go to this website and click on that form and let us know about it so we can address the issue as soon as possible. You can also ping us in the EE conference Slack. So if you're in the EE CMS Slack, go to EE conf and ping us there, and the team's always hanging out in there as well, just to talk about events. Q&A as always. We'd like for you to share your audio and video. We want to see your face, and just like this was a real meetup. So what you can do is just click on that share audio and video button, and then myself or Randy will let you in to ask your question. And then when you're done, just click leave to stop sharing. There's also the Q&A tab, which you can use. That's probably best during the talk to queue up Q&A. And then we'll have a time either during the chat when Randy asks or at the end to go through and moderate all the Q&A at that point. So yeah, use those two things. Make sure you're asking Q&As in one of those places. Don't just put them in the chat. I say this every time and you guys still do it, but that's okay. We'll work through it. But please try to put your questions in the Q&A so that we can come back to them at the end at those times. And again, feel free to stack them up because Randy and I, as we've been talking, he may just pause and ask if there's any questions, and I'll come on and moderate the Q&A in the middle of that. So go ahead and ask your questions during the time, and then when there's a break, we'll go through all those. All right, our sponsors, as always, our gold sponsors, Hop Studios. Thank you, Travis, and your team for all your support of the community, all you guys do. Of course, Doug with Triple Nerd Score as our silver sponsors. And bronze sponsors, Greenlight Creative, Creative Art, Jub, Prime Incorporated, Conflicts Group, Buzzing Pixel, Noble, and Bold Minded. I'm sure you guys recognize all those names. Be sure to give all of our sponsors love and support. Again, they make all these events possible. Friends of EE, Eric over at Mithra62. Thank you, Eric, for all you do for the community as well. Of course, we are volunteers, and we don't make any profit from these conferences at all. So please support the conference. If you enjoy the events that we do, you can go to eeconference or eeconf.com/donate and just donate to the money. Appreciate everybody. I know a lot of times with these meetups, we have the option where you can donate when you purchase or you register, and we appreciate all you guys that give that little bit every time you register. That really does help out, pays the hop-in bills, keeps the lights on, that kind of stuff. All right, so two quick announcements on our big events this year. So first of all, of course, our fall summit is going to be in Orlando at the Rosen Creek Shingle Resort. I actually was just down there a couple of weeks ago looking at the facility. It's an amazing place. Huge hotel, beautiful Florida, all that kind of fun stuff. We still got, I think, maybe one super early bird ticket available, and then it's going to go to the early bird pricing. So that super early bird includes your hotel for the 2 nights, along with conference admission, food, all those kind of things. And even more pressing is today is the last day for early bird tickets for the spring conference. So the spring virtual conference in May. We are going to hopefully announce that lineup either tomorrow or even today if we can get everything confirmed. But today is going to be the last day for early bird tickets. So if you want to get your ticket half off the planned price, then go ahead and purchase those tickets today. And that's going to be May 10th, I think it is. Of course, go to econference.com or ecomp.com to find out all the events and lists. And of course, if you haven't been to the new site, definitely go check it out. Julie Field did a great job kind of updating our brand with all this, retro look and everything, and really cool stuff. We also keep the list of events updated on the homepage, so you can always go there to see all the events that we have planned coming up. We even already have our July meetup somewhat planned. Matt from the EE team is going to do a session on EE add-on development. So that's going to be an awesome time in July. We'll get the exact date on that as soon as we have that confirmed. All right. So without further ado, Mr. Randy, here's his bio up here. You can read him. Randy and I chatted a bunch in different forums, whether it was on Discord or just in DDEV support, as he's helped me several times, whether he knew he was helping me or not. As we identified the other day, I have an identity crisis online, so he never knew when he was talking to me or not. But he has been a great source of help. He's always in the DDEV Discord community, helping people out for the couple of years that I've been working with DDEV. You can read all this stuff here, but he is currently the lead maintainer of the DDEV project, and which lets web developers do development on their own computers, of course. And also, as he just alluded to, he has lots of bike traveling experience. I did not know this until I looked at his bio, but did a self-supported bicycle trip from Canada to Argentina, which is pretty awesome. So I am not going to tell you all about DDEV. You guys know I really enjoy using it. I'm going to jump off of here and let Mr. Randy take it away. Thank you, Randy.
All righty. Great to see you, everybody. Great to meet you. I'm delighted to be here today, honored to be here today, and love seeing people use DDEV and work through the problems that they have with web development. Yeah, by the way, we're not a huge group, so I don't mind questions as we go along. I'll probably stop and ask, but if as Andy said, if you put them in the Q&A, they'll get remembered, and it gives you a chance to think them through too. But we'll do them as we go along, and I don't mind at all if you pop in and ask them. We don't need to be formal or anything. I will see if I can figure out how to get my slides here, and they are in the chat as well. If you find a link that you want and you want to extract the link from there or whatever. Okay, so I think I've been maintaining DDEV for probably 7 years. I got hired to do something else, but I didn't like any of the other things that company was doing. I didn't really find value in them, but as an old web developer who always threw together his own environment on a computer, I know exactly why people need local web environments. I mean, you cannot do web development if you can't run it locally. But I used to always just put Apache or Nginx and PHP FPM native on my machine, whether Linux or Mac or Windows. I think I did it on Windows, and I was able to do it just fine. And so I was a little skeptical of this very, very young project called DDEV, because I'm like, well, why would I need that? I know how to do all this stuff. But I did start to find out that if you have two projects with two different PHP versions, and one's using Apache and one's using Nginx, which is a very simple set of requirements, you can't, if you're setting up your computer locally, it takes a lot of slinging Nginx to make that happen. So I got to where I really thought it had value, and now 7 years later, it has. It can do lots of things. So we'll talk about what DDEV is, how it compares to rolling your own Docker or Docker Compose, where it came from, how it compares to other approaches, because there's lots of them. And we'll actually set it up with ExpressionEngine, and there's a spot for your questions and thoughts and everything, and then DDEV resources. So, all righty. So what is DDEV? It's a wrapper on Docker Compose and Docker that tries to hide the details of Docker. Docker is a great technology, but most people don't actually want to learn it or understand it. And DDEV, you mostly don't need to understand it. I mean, you can extend DDEV, and you can add in other things about Docker, but most people running a regular website, as you'll see when we run a ExpressionEngine, don't need to know anything about Docker. I know that you, at the last one of these, you had a what would you call it? You had a Docker Compose session that explained how to roll your own Docker Compose, and that's a totally legitimate thing to do if you want to maintain your infrastructure and your local development environment. And it lets you do it exactly the way you want to, but you have to maintain it. And if you're the team lead, then you have to maintain it for all the other people on your team, little details like that. So DDEV is free and open source under the Apache license. You can see the code, you can improve it, you can participate in the community. DDEV's community supported. Probably some of you are individual supporters, or your companies are supporting it. It was started by a company named DRUD, and DDEV probably stands for Docker development. Nobody's really sure, but the company that started it, the one that I went to work for back in the day, lost its funding a couple of years ago, and DDEV just continued on because of great community. It works the same, and it works natively on Mac OS, either Intel or Apple Silicon, on Windows WSL2, on Linux, and I don't encourage people to do it, but it works fine on traditional Windows. WSL2 is so much better than traditional Windows and so much faster that I certainly encourage people to use that. The basic idea is you check out your code, you DDEV config, you DDEV start, and then DDEV launch is just a way to open your browser. And you can import a database with DDEV import DB if you have an upstream database. So that's what it is, and we'll do all of that. I don't see any questions, but feel free to pop in. I feel lonely when I don't hear you. Now, like I say, everybody needs to run DDEV on their own machine to do web development, or really any other kind of development. I mean, everybody needs to run their website on their local machine. It's just a fundamental thing. I imagine that all of you have had experiences back in the day with a team making direct changes to the code on production, or sharing a development machine where everybody could change everything. It's not a good thing. As I said, DDEV's a wrapper on Docker Compose, written in Go. The fact that it's written in Go is one of the reasons that it can so easily move. Go and Docker is the reason it can so easily be compiled for and used in so many different environments and behave the same. The fact that it's in Go and compiled means that it has fast performance when you're giving commands. And because of a lot of important optimizations, it has really, really excellent web server performance. far better than most people ever get with Docker setups. Sometimes the web server performance is better than it would be on Linux or on a server. We have what we think is world-class support in the Discord channel and the issue queue and Stack Overflow. So you'll find that it's a friendly community like yours is. And it's carefully maintained to keep up with the latest technology. So DDEV had native support for the Mac M1 shortly after the Mac M1 was available. And I think you know that there are many pieces of software out there and many development environments that still don't. I gave a couple of links here that go into detail about what really is different about DDEV and why use DDEV instead of rolling your own Docker-based local dev solution. It's totally legitimate to do your own if you want to maintain your own. You know, like I say, that was my thing over decades. I was fine with it. When I started to realize what it means to a team, for the team lead to have to maintain everybody else's local dev, or when you're flipping between projects that have different configuration, oh my goodness, DDEV makes that so much easier. Okay, say something somewhere. I'm going to look at the chat here, make sure that anybody's still out there. Yeah, thanks for posting the link to that. Good links going on in the chat. Philip is there. Thank you. Glad to know somebody's there. I was on the Q&A and it was very lonely there. So okay,
You're doing great, Randy. Voice to talk to you. I know how it is. You're doing great. You're going.
Yeah, we'll just spend some time in a minute taking a look at what's near and dear to your heart with ExpressionEngine. So DDEV has explicit support for a lot of CMSs and frameworks. And so if you do a DDEV config --help, you'll see lots of them. So, you know, for example, you know, Drupal and Laravel and Magento, those all have explicit support. But what that means is that it will generate some settings and perhaps have a custom Nginx configuration. But it's not essential to anybody. So if you're working with PHP, HTML, JS, Node.js, any of those things, it just works like we'll do with ExpressionEngine, even though it doesn't have DDEV config -- web server type equals ExpressionEngine. It won't matter to you because you know how to do those. You know how to do the config, and we'll do that together in just a minute. So, but the basic idea is you check out your code, you do DDEV config. A lot of people will tell it exactly what they want in DDEV config, and others will just step through it. And then you can take a look at the config.yaml to specify a PHP version or database type or whatever. And you do a DDEV start, and DDEV launch just opens the URL that DDEV start just gave to you. So, but people get very dependent on it. There was a, you know, so DDEV launch is just like this pleasant little shortcut that opens a browser window for you. But somebody in Stack Overflow the other day said, my DDEV launch is broken. He had maybe full disk or something like that, and had gotten the custom command broken. And he says he can't, what do I do to make it work anymore? And of course, all he had to do was go to his browser and put the URL in there, or click the link in the DDEV start. But he's so dependent on DDEV launch, and I think a lot of us get that get that way. So, okay. Any questions so far? Q&A is got Q&A. Look at that. Okay. So Gavin says you may be covering this later, but if not, I can certainly imagine that DDEV is better than Docker native, but it would be good to show more. How does it relate to Valet and PHP Monitor? So Valet, the last time I knew about it, was a VirtualBox-based tool. But the basic answer is, if you like Valet and it works for you, then why would you change? You know, and I mean you might want to try out DDEV. It's really easy to try out DDEV. And I encourage you to do the quick start like we're going to do today. But all of us have the tools that we have, and if they work for us, it takes a lot to make us change. So the amount of learning that we have to do is a lot, and we don't add to it just randomly. Now, Carl says, are you adding ExpressionEngine to the project type? If people want that, there's certainly room for a pull request. There's no request in the issue queue at this time for an explicit project type, but it's not that hard to do. When I know that the craft community has a parallel universe with you all. When they decided to use DDEV officially as their local dev, a couple of people got together and did a PR and worked through it and did it and added the project type. So, and Tom says, what's required to add it? I'd be happy. I have a write-up on it. I'll be happy to share it with you. Let me just get it for you, and I'll answer you right there. Adding new project types. So okay, here's the reply on adding new project types. Well, I tried.
What are you trying to do, Randy?
I'm trying to reply in the, so I just gave you the link, Gavin. Oh no, I did it in the wrong place. What would be required? To Tom, and here is the answer. And this time it didn't go away. Okay, so there's the link to what you have to do to add a project type. So Robin says, I'm vague on what the project type does. So different project types. So if you, for example, use Drupal, it will create a settings file for you so that you don't even know that the settings have to exist. It tries to do that for a number of the other ones as well. And a number of them have their own explicit Nginx config. There's also a few details like where are the user-generated files that it can set up. It can do that with some CMSs. You don't have to worry about that because you're going to see in just a minute what you can do without an explicit project type. So what we're going to do, and we'll do it, and we'll just do this right away, is we're going to do the ExpressionEngine example. So I will change and show you the docs on how you do ExpressionEngine, and then we will just go through those docs and do what it says. So I am going to stop sharing this one. And we'll go to the doc and take a look at what it is. And so here's the CMS Quick Start section of the docs, ddev.readthedocs.io. And you see that we have tabs here for a number of different kinds of CMS. And here's the ExpressionEngine technique. And so we will just, since you're all familiar with this, we will just use this exact technique. And you see this isn't very hard. I am going to just share my browser. I'm going to share my terminal, and we will go through this. Have to unshare, then I have to share. Oh, look it, you can say share this tab instead. Interesting. Uh-oh. Okay, there we are. Now I want to share my, now I want to share. There we go. You see my terminal okay? Can I tell if you can? Okay, if I go back to chat, I will probably know. Yes, Paul sees the terminal. So I'm going to go into, is the type big enough? Is it okay to see that? Okay, so I've already got the zip file downloaded from the website. So I'm just going to make a directory called E3, for example. And I'm just CDing into it. It's an empty directory. And I'm going to unzip the ExpressionEngine zip ball here. So now we have your standard ExpressionEngine zip ball. And the next step is to DDEV config it. So I'm just using the prompted configuration, but I'm just going to say, yeah, and the doc root is the current directory because the default EE has the index.php right there in the root directory. You all probably have different doc roots, and DDEV tries to auto detect. Project type, it just says PHP. That's the default. That's the default because it didn't find one of those other ones. So there we are. We have it. The configuration can also be done in the config.yaml. So we can change the PHP version to something other than 8.0. DDEV supports 5.6 to 8.2 right now. We could change the web server type to Apache. We can change the database type. We have support for MariaDB, for MySQL, and for Postgres. And I guess that's about it. You can also specify the Node.js version. So now we do a DDEV start, and that will build all the containers and set up the database. As you remember from the ExpressionEngine newbie instructions, it has things about setting the permissions and setting up a database. We don't have to do any of that because the database is all set up for us here. So now I should be able to do a DDEV launch/admin.php and then share the correct window. And so now I'll try to see if I can share the correct window. Okay. I don't know how to share the correct window. Let's see. I want to share the correct window. Very much I do. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can do this. I'll make it a different window and maybe that will make it so I can do it. There we are. The technology here in doing the sharing is more difficult than setting up ExpressionEngine. So here we are in the admin.php. The DB server address is DB. That's super important because a lot of people are used to using localhost, but it's a different container, and the name of the container is DB. Amazingly, the name of the database is also DB, and the username is also DB, and the password is also DB. We'll leave the table prefix alone, and we'll use admin@example.com, admin and password of, because it has very specific requirements, and that is not a good password, by the way, EE. So here we are, and we can log in. And we just did a basic EE install using DDEV, and there it is. And we can go to the site itself and see what it created there. And that was all it took to run EE, and that says good things about EE, and it also says good things about DDEV. That's all it took to do that. Questions? I'll bet you have questions. Oh, you are muted again.
Yeah, Gavin asked one about connecting to SQL Pro, which I think that's something cool in DDEV, how you can do DDEV, like SQL Pro or DDEV, DBeaver, or any of those tools that you're using to connect to your database.
Yeah, so let me see what we're sharing right now. It doesn't have a good share your whole screen, but DDEV has a whole bunch of ways to work with your database. SQL Pro is pretty much obsolete now, but SQL Ace replaces it. So there's a whole bunch of excellent database browsers, but you can actually just do a DDEV MySQL and you're immediately in the command line. And DDEV SQL Pro, DDEV SQL Ace, DDEV Table Plus, and there's another one as well built in there. So you can explore your database very easily. Let's see if we've got other questions here. So phpMyAdmin, Paul asks about. So let's just do that. So if I do a DDEV launch, I'm going to do a DDEV launch -p. phpMyAdmin is built in. Here's how you do it. You say share this tab instead. So you should be able to see that. So this is built in to DDEV. phpMyAdmin is, so you can just go in there and there's the tables that you're familiar with. So that's the that answers Paul's question. Now I should say that phpMyAdmin will probably be removed and changed to an add-on in the next major version of DDEV coming in a couple of months. Carl says, can you do PHP 5.4? And the answer is yes. But there's in the DDEV contrib repo, there's an example of how you do it. It is more fiddly. DDEV has explicit support for 5.6 and up, but I think we've all come across projects that were unmaintained that needed to use needed to use ancient PHP, and there is a way to do it. And it's not that hard. I mean, it's just, there's a recipe at in DDEV config. I'll show you the recipe here. So you can see this repo, right? I think you can. So old PHP. So here's old PHP versions technique. So it's got a technique, not too hard. Worked fine last time I saw it. It comes up periodically because people need to do that kind of thing. So DDEV contrib. I guess I should say that DDEV contrib is the way we used to share user techniques, and it's got a bunch of good techniques. But these days, most techniques get shared via DDEV add-ons. So there are a whole bunch of add-ons that let you quickly and easily add things that aren't built into DDEV. And that's why PHPMyAdmin is being moved off, so people can use adminer or PHPMyAdmin, or just not use the space when they're using it. So if I go to, I'll just show you in the docs because it's easier there. I'm going to say share this tab instead, add on. And here are some of the official add-ons. Adminer, Solar, Beanstalk, Browser Sync, Cron, Elasticsearch. But there are a number of other unofficial ones that people have just done and have not promoted to official. These official ones have tests and have maintainers and have docs. So they're, for example, if we go to memcached, I don't know whether folks use that. The memcached shows you how you install it. It has tests that run, and it has nightly build. So it has all the things that you expect with that. Let's see. So Yuri says, I can't find the section for the CMS Quick Start. There are two, let me show you here. The reason you can't find it is I added it last night, and there's a latest and there's a stable. Oh, let me share this tab correctly. Okay, so I was showing you the latest version, and you went to stable, which was a totally normal thing to do. But if you want to go to the latest, you can go to, you'd have to read the docs.io/latest, and you should be able to search for ExpressionEngine, and yes, you can. So
that's cool, Randy. Thank you for adding that for us too, because I know that wasn't there. Like you said, it was just added last night. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, actually, what happened was I was preparing for this, and so of course I wanted to try out installing ExpressionEngine, and it was so easy that I thought, well, I'll just do a PR. So there it is. So now, it shows how to do it with both the Git checkout and with the zipballs download. So yeah, so Gavin had asked how you do SQL Pro, and you just do DDEV SQL Pro. So that's good. Have we got everything answered? Thanks for marking the answer there.
Yeah, they're all answered. I think we're good to go.
Good. All right. Okay, now, what am I sharing? I don't know what I'm sharing. I don't know what's next. Let me see what's next. We did the DDEV launch. So There we go. Oh, this is pretty good. The share this tab instead is pretty nice. So you can change the PHP version, as I said, 5.6 to 8.2. You can import a DB. DDEV import DB is really easy. Export DB is there. So this project that we just set up, we could do a DDEV export DB with it. DDEV snapshot is a super fast way of making a snapshot of your database. And it's super fast to import too. So if you have a large database, it makes a huge difference. But it also means that if you do a DDEV snapshot from time to time, and let's say that your whole Docker world goes to hell, you won't lose your database. You've got snapshots there just waiting for you. And you can snapshot all of your projects that are registered with the DDEV snapshot-A so that you are comfortable that you have everything saved. DDEV list shows you your projects that you have running. DDEV describe shows you all the details of the one you have. And I'll show that in just a second. And I've already showed you how you could edit the config.yaml. And you can DDEV SSH into the web container. I should show you that. And DDEV Composer install. So let's see if I can share the correct thing here. I wish you could just switch to sharing just whatever you want at any time. Oh, you have to say window, and then you say bash. Okay. If I go to ExpressionEngine, for example, if I do a DDEV list, it'll show me the projects I have running. And if I'm not mistaken, ExpressionEngine is the regular composer version. I can do a DDEV start here. This is my checkout of the, well, I think this is my checkout of the Git repo. And so I can do a DDEV Composer install. You don't need PHP installed on your machine at all. And you don't need Composer installed on your machine. In fact, if you use DDEV Composer, it will use the Composer and PHP version that you have configured for your code, which is important. If I do a DDEV describe here, it will tell me everything about this. Let me see if I can make this a little wider. It'll show you the various things, the URL, the ports inside Docker, the ports that are exposed onto your computer, the PHP version, whether you're using Mutagen, which is the big speed up for Mac and Windows. You don't need it on Linux. It shows you the doc root, shows you the DB. If you can't remember DB, there it is. And the phpMyAdmin URL, and then all the URLs that you can use to access it. And you can just type DDEV to see the commands that are available. So DDEV SQL Pro, for example, or DDEV SQL Ace, all those different commands. And you can make custom commands. So that's another thing there. I think that's what we were going to show. How are we doing on questions here? Everybody's answered, I think, still. So let's see, I think that is the things you can do. So now we're on to more questions that you may have. It looks like Paul asks about deployment from dev to production. So DDEV does have a push command, but it is not what you want to do. DDEV has integration with upstream things. So for example, Platform SH and Pantheon, and there's an rsync example, and there's a Git example. There's an Acquia example. Those all work great for pull, but deployment is something that really, you don't ever push your database up to your hosting environment because you blow away what's there. And so deployment really isn't fundamentally in DDEV's scope. Although it's easy, you can export your database and export your files and import them where you want them. But normally deployment requires a more thoughtful approach, and DDEV is not built to get to solve your deployment problems for you, which everybody does different ways. I hope that answers for you, Paul. And everybody, we're at the Q&A time, so everybody's welcome to pop in and turn on your camera and everything else. Carl says, would it be worth mentioning the DDEV share? And yes, DDEV share is the super easy way to, you just, if you have to have ngrok installed, but you just do a DDEV share and it gives you a URL, and anybody in the world can see your running project. And it's good for testing with mobile devices, good for showing your collaborators, your stakeholders of all kinds, wherever they are. So let's see what else. That was Carl's question. Is that so? Keep them coming, and feel free to pop in here.
Yeah, Robert says in the chat that he uses shell scripts to sync from prod to local. So, DDEV doesn't prevent you or preclude you from using whatever your normal deployment process is, to deploy from dev to production, whether that's through some sort of Git process or, CI pipeline or anything like that.
For your code, you'll almost always use some form of Git process. So you're still using
Right.
Git, and you're typically using Git on the host, even though Git also works inside the container. But usually you'll use it. Usually you'll use it right here, and that's the normal setup. And you'll push, and you'll create a release or whatever your deployment process is. But getting if you have more than code to deploy, I guess that's what I was talking about. If you have more than code to deploy, then that's a different thing. And so if you do have updates that you want to get from your database, then I'm sure that ExpressionEngine has techniques to add features to the database as they've been added to the code.
Let's see, Paul says, what about adding, removing, configuring Apache or PHP modules? So that's one thing I really like about DDEV. Randy, if you want to talk about that, is that we can configure our Nginx environments or Apache environments to be exactly like our production environments, with all the modules installed, all the configurations, all the comp files, everything.
Most people don't, I don't hear people talking much about adding config to Nginx, but you can completely change the config. So assuming you're using Nginx, you go into this directory, the Nginx full directory, and it has a README there about what to do and that kind of thing. But it has a default project config. But all you have to do is remove the DDEV generated, meaning I am taking over this file, and then change what you need to change in the configuration there. So that's the technique. And the question about adding extra turning on additional features, Nginx or Apache is not hard either, but I don't ever hear people talking about it or needing to do it. The typical things are already usually there.
I will say the conf files, I know Randy, you and I talked about this, is with my ExpressionEngine multi-site installs, I would add additional conf files for different document routes for different sites and multi-sites. So you have complete control over all that, just like you would on your server.
Yep. Excellent.
Gavin, oh, this is a good one. Could you talk about how you link up a DDEV site to an IDE for debugging? So the explicit Xdebug support in DDEV is amazing and works great with VS Code.
Yeah. So I'm more comfortable with PHP Storm, but it works out of the box. It's just standard. Let's go ahead and debug this. Let's just go ahead and debug this project that we're working on right here. Let's see if it's working. Let's see if it's set up before we do. It is set up, so it's fine. I'm just going to do a DDEV xdebug on, and then I'm going to launch PHP Storm, and I will share PHP Storm theoretically. If I can find my way back to the correct window. And the docs are there as well for VS Code, and it works out of the box. There's nothing particular to do with it. Let me share my PHP Storm window. Oh, got to go to window, and there we go. So there's my PHP Storm window of the project that we were just working on. And I will just go to the index.php, and I'll just set a breakpoint right here. And then I will do the listen in PHP Storm. And theoretically, I should be able to just click the ExpressionEngine. There it is, and it just stopped there, just like that. All I did was visit the website, and now I can just step through it as you would expect to step through it and inspect. So we're very proud of how it works. There's a very nice PHP Storm DDEV integration plugin, which helps with some more advanced things, but Xdebug typically works just out of the box. But I think the plugin might have set up the mapping for me. Normally, the first time you hit it, it would pop up and say, what's the mapping from the host into the container? And so I think the plugin that the DDEV integration plugin just did that for us.
Yep, I know it worked pretty seamlessly with VS Code as well for me, is how I used it. And I would just turn on Xdebug and DDEV and then listen in VS Code, and it worked just fine. So
yep, that's the ticket. And it works with, I mean, I don't know that anybody uses anything besides PHP Storm and VS Code these days, but it works everywhere else too. It's all the same. They all work great.
Yep. Phil asked, how much time do you invest in DDEV on a monthly basis?
This is my full-time thing. I do it. I work on it all the time. Doing support, doing development, and I get paid salary by our lead sponsor, Platform SH, which is an amazing thing. They stepped up after about a year with no funding. Platform.sh came on board and said they wanted to sponsor the project and solved a number of interesting logistical problems like the DDEV trademark. So that's a beautiful thing. Their support is very much appreciated.
Paul asks, where are Apache and Nginx logs stored if you want to view the logs?
You can just do a DDEV logs, and you'll usually find out everything that you need to know. DDEV logs or DDEV logs-f will usually show you everything that you need to know. Both the Apache or Nginx and the PHP FPM logs. So if you get a PHP error, you'll usually see what you need to know that way.
Yep. Paul asked another question here. Is DDEV most prevalent as a local/dev environment with the benefit of ensuring same technology across a dev team, or is it also geared towards precisely matching the production environment as well? He says, we have servers where we control both dev production and in situations where the client is in charge of production, so we don't have as much say for controlling the operating system, web server, and database.
Yeah, it's a great question. The goal of DDEV is to provide you a pretty close environment. So you can control the minor version of PHP, not the patch version, and you can control your Nginx or Apache config exactly. But for most people that are running Linux web servers, getting to that level is adequate. But I spent 2 or 3 years before DDEV maintaining a project which built the dev environment exactly the same. It was in VirtualBox, and it built the environment exactly the same. And it took forever, but everybody had exactly what would be deployed on the server. So I certainly know what it's like to build the exact thing, but most of us don't need that. We need to be on the same PHP version, and we need to have the same basic Nginx config. And for these type of things, it's going to work out.
Yeah, I would say, especially the team aspect of it is one thing that I've really enjoyed, especially now with the team that I'm currently on, where, we manage, 60, 70 different active websites and retainer support. And all of them, because of lack of upkeep, as it always happens, different build processes need different versions of Node or Ruby or all those other things. And so we configure the containers to be exactly the setup that we need. So when a dev, even if he's first day on the job, spins up that container, it's already switching to the correct Node version, Ruby versions, it's using the right version of PHP, everything's set up for them. And as you switch between projects, you're not relying on your local environment. So that's a big difference with what Gavin was saying. This is with Docker in general, not just DDEV, but DDEV just makes Docker a heck of a lot easier. What Gavin was saying before about versus Valet and those kind of tools, with Valet, you're using your local MySQL server. So when I open up, Table Plus, I see all my databases. It's not containerized. So if MySQL server goes down on my local machine, it takes all my dev environment down. And also if I have my local machine has, a certain version of whatever running of MySQL or anything, then you're kind of tied to that in a lot of those tools. Whereas DDEV, you're working inside the container. So I can work on an old version of Node on one project and the latest version in another project, and it doesn't affect each other at all. And I'm not hindered or handicapped by, Mac updated last night and it just broke my dev environment because I'm working inside the container, not, with local installs of PHP, Node, MySQL, all those stuff. So.
Yeah, that's a fundamental thing. Like I was saying, that was what sold me on DDEV back in the day, was that number one, I could have multiple projects with multiple configuration, and number two, as the person who knew how to do all the configuration, I didn't have to maintain all the junior devs stuff. So, I mean, so the biggest advantage might be for a team lead, not having to fix every junior developer's local development environment every day, because they don't know how to do Nginx. Well, you think about all the layers of stuff that you have to know to work on any of this stuff, and Nginx and PHP config and all those things aren't necessarily even on that list. And DDEV tries to take those off of the list. I always encourage people to check in the DDEV directory, even though it can be regenerated. Check it in so that every developer has the same exact config.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a developer who, I mean, he was actually a pretty senior guy, and he lost 6 hours or something because he couldn't get an older version of Node installed on the Mac, and it was some issue with the M1 processor. And he wasn't using DDEV. That was my first week here or so. And I said, why don't we just, we spin it up inside the container, because they were using a different tool. They were using Lando, and but a lot of same principles. And I was like, why don't you just work inside the container that already has the Node version installed? And he spent 6 hours on what took us, 5 minutes to fix with the container. So.
Very cool.
And I'll also say, and Tom can attest to this, I'm sure he's laughing already, but you can go from nothing to having DDEV installed and running an ExpressionEngine site in less than 20 minutes from full install of Docker and everything. So he challenged me on that one time. We needed to get a very old PHP 2 or ExpressionEngine 2 site running, which was an old version of PHP and all that kind of stuff. And I told him 20 minutes I could have him up and running. And I think I was right at the 20-minute mark, and we got it up and running. So
that's pretty great. That's pretty great. Robert was saying about DDEV hooks. DDEV has a way to let you configure your you just put these things in the config.yaml. You can tell it what to do after it starts up and have it add things on inside the container. And you can also do build time things with a custom Docker file. There's plenty of customization, but you don't need to know about all those capabilities to get started.
Right.
So
Paul mentioned, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Paul wanted to talk about domains real fast. So I know you can configure your domain name along with your TLD. But he asked, how are dev domains handled and SSL certificates? How's all that handled?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's all built in. I don't know whether you saw, we had trusted certs in everything we did right off of the boat there. So if I go and share again, and you take a look at the thing that we just shared, what are we sharing? Oh, this is the one that was waiting for the. Oh, it's still waiting. We got to turn off the. And it doesn't matter. Here we are. We're waiting for PHP Storm, but it doesn't matter. You see, this is trusted. DDEV in the initial.
I don't think we're seeing what you're seeing, Randy.
Oh, sorry.
I just see a white screen.
Okay.
I see a mouse now.
Okay, here we go. How about this?
There we go.
Okay. So you see we are trusted here. It says the connection is secure. We can look at the certificate, and you see we have a development certificate that was installed. This is a one-time installation with DDEV. You say make cert-install, and Chrome and Firefox are happy to do that, at least on Mac and Linux.
It's not sharing your URL bar. It's just sharing the content of the browser.
Oh,
but that's okay.
Just
know that he's clicking on the certificate and exploring it, and it's saying it's trusted.
Yeah.
Yuri says we trust that you're saying was what you say.
Anyway,
we trust that it's trusted.
The big point is you can see that it's trusted here. So you're working with HTTPS, and you'll see mixed content problems if you have them, and that sort of thing. So
right, and that's by default. There was nothing you had to do to configure that in your project. So
it's the default if you follow the instructions and do the make cert dash install at the very
Right.
beginning. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a one-time thing.
So Litzinger here, who was actually the person that turned me on to DDEV several years ago, says expanding upon the DDEV to stage to production pipeline question, can the container that DDEV builds be deployed directly to a production K8, so Kubernetes, or something like DigitalOcean Droplet? Is there anything configured in the container that is specific to dev that you wouldn't want in production?
So the answer is a little complex. The DDEV is built for local development. You can see that it's very, very much optimized for local development, and that's what its goal is. It is a Docker image, and you can deploy it, and there actually is a hardened image built for it, but it is the hardened image removes things like sudo and things like that. I actually run my small websites, the few that I still maintain. I actually run them on a Linode server using DDEV, and so if you search in the DDEV docs for, let me see if I can do this here, share this tab instead. If I search for casual hosting, it explains how to use DDEV itself with its images and containers in a hosting environment. That's probably not exactly the same as what you were asking, because you were asking about Kubernetes. And DDEV is not optimized for that. DDEV is focused on local development and isn't going to advertise that it's the right thing for running your website in a production environment.
All right. Any other questions, guys? Gavin, thanks again for all that. I was just talking to Gavin. Randy, thanks again for all this. Let's see, I'm going to post a few of these main links in the chat here. A lot of everything that, oh, that did not work out well, did it? You guys get the idea. Can I do spacing? A lot of the topics we've linked to or talked about all link from the docs or one of these in some way or another. So.
Yeah, and we didn't get to the last page about resources, but that's there, and you're posting all of them, which is great. We'd love to have you in the DDEV Discord and in the issue queue, and look forward to good collaboration with. Look forward to a good collaboration with ExpressionEngine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Randy.
Hey, it's great to be here today, and thanks so much. And I'm around all the time to, follow up questions. I'm around anytime in Discord. Love to chat with you. So come on by.
Awesome. I'll be in there. So.
But will I recognize you? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Now that you know who I am in there.
You can write a blog post sometime about how many different handles you have.
Right. Yeah. We'll work on my brand identity at some point.
All
right. Well, Randy, you can go ahead and hop off if you want. Thank you again. We'll get Tom on here to give an update from the ExpressionEngine team next. And feel free to hang out if there's time. We may hang out and chat and just joke around for a while after that. So and feel free to put stuff in Q&A, guys, if you have more stuff for Randy.
I just turn off my video. Is that what I do?
Just press that leave button in the top right.
Oh, the leave button. I thought that would make me leave. Okay.
All right. It's the most confusing UI feature in the world. I don't know why they have that. All right. And like magic, there is Tom. Tom, hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Doing well. Yourself?
I am super fantastic. All right. I'm going to jump off of here and let you do your thing.
Sweet. All right, right off the bat, thank you to the EEConf committee for putting this together, and thank you for everything that y'all do. Randy, similarly, thank you. a lot of people in the world are helped because of DDEV. That's not lost on us, and being able to just glean some information. So thank you. All right, so I just have a few bullet points today. Pretty quick update from our end. I guess I should just confirm everybody can hear me, right? Awesome, cool. Yep, so quick couple updates from here. If anybody has questions, happy to tee into answering them as well. So a couple updates. ExpressionEngine 7.3, it's looking pretty good. There is developer previews of that on GitHub. There's still a couple items we're looking to tighten up before we enter into kind of our full-blown testing, if you will, before release. So we're excited for that. Kind of key mark additions in 7.3 are the addition of field groups into fluid fields. And I'd say that's really the biggest one. There's a lot in addition to that, and we'll go through that more. I know somebody called out a bit of a snippet of what's in there in Slack the other day. I must have been looking at the GitHub repo. I thought that was super cool. So a lot going there. I want to talk about PHP 8.2 real quick. Initial 8.2 support has been shipped for EE7. ExpressionEngine 6 will have it shortly here as well. There is a few more fixes that we are addressing, a few more 8.2 items. Just kind of by way of reference, if you will, when you have something like a CMS and you're adding support for PHP 8.1 or you're adding support for PHP 8.2, we kind of do the initial support, if you will. However, when you're dealing with a plugin or an add-on ecosystem, what happens is people are upgrading sites and they have an add-on that might not be as strictly typed. So then that gets passed through the core for template parsing, that type of thing. We're supposed to have a string or an array or something along those lines, and you get a deprecation notice generally. So some of what we're dealing with is kind of, for lack of a better word, that little bit of whack-a-mole. You should be fine operating on 8.2 as a whole. There will be things that kind of creep up over time as people are using different hooks in the core or the template parser, things like that. But PHP 8.2 support is well underway. Similarly, on that front, EE Harbor, we are in the middle of rolling out 8.2 support across all add-ons. We are roughly, I'd say 50 or 60%. That is not a mathematical number. I think we were joking around about 63% complete with the 8.2 support on EE Harbor. So that's underway as well. Yeah, I have one item here. I was wondering if I want to mention or not. I'll mention it, and I'll talk more about it at the spring conference. ExpressionEngine's at a very cool spot right now, a very interesting phase. We're really heading towards the end of our first set of multi-year arcs that we at Packet Tide undertook as part of taking on ExpressionEngine, if you will. I shouldn't say the end. We're kind of completing those. They will continue through, and we'll talk more about what they were and then what's around the corner as well. So that's a very cool phase to be at from a product standpoint. Coil pack. I know I'm kind of going through these, so please, if somebody wants to hear something specific, call it out. Coil pack. Quick update on Coil pack. Coil pack is in good shape. We are basically in the phase of solidifying documentation, creating tutorials and things along those lines on different things you can do with Coil pack in conjunction with ExpressionEngine. I know that we have the Gatsby static site generation tutorial that we are kind of finished up the first rough draft on. So you will be able to do static site generation with Gatsby. We're also working on an Astro one as well. And we're hoping that both of those will be ready for the launch. That is the plan. Along the lines of Coil pack, I would mention, I think I might have mentioned this in the last one as well, and I'll drop links here. We did do a 2-part interview with SoulSpace on kind of Coil pack and what it is. In addition to that, it's really the first time that we shared the story of acquiring ExpressionEngine and how that went down. So I've had several people in the community reach out to me and just say, hey, they really appreciated hearing that end of the equation. But I'd encourage you to check out the SoulSpace podcast there on Coil pack as well. That's really all I have down for notes to cover. Does anybody have any specific questions?
Thanks, Tom. I don't see any questions in Q&A or anything right now. Ben says, when are we integrating Chat GPT? There we go.
Yeah, it's a funny question. When you look at Chat GPT, there's a few different angles that you could consider an integration with. And I don't think we've solidified on any of those. I do know that there's a pretty big add-on that somebody has in development with Chat GPT as well. So kind of an interesting development there. But there's a lot of kind of given easy ideas around Chat GPT, and there's some really interesting ones that come up in ways that could be extremely beneficial, but not as plainly seen. So without saying too much more, I'd say, Ben, at this phase, no timeline. We are keeping eyes on it. Similarly, we're keeping eyes on Mastodon. Thank you to everybody who gave feedback there. We're working through navigating the whole Twitter Mastodon thing right now. So
eConf is on Mastodon now. It's a cool place to be. Guys, don't forget speaking of which, the poll. Sorry to interject here, Tom, but there's 25 of you guys on here right now, and we've only gotten 14 poll responses. So if you can go to that poll real fast and just let us know how you heard about the event, that'd be awesome. Blair here does ask about eStore and licensing.
Yep, it's a great question. I did an update with the partners on yesterday too. Right now, we are basically in the trial phase for add-on licensing. We are working with 1 or 2 developers specifically, and people can raise their hand too. This is not like an exclusivity type thing, to run through a test of it, the eStore and licensing. So let's kind of give a high level what's involved in that. There's 2 things we're trying to accomplish through testing. One is just simply the mechanics of it all working properly for add-ons, that type of thing. The second one, though, which is probably more important in this stage, is actually the process and the flow. So, what is it? Turning it on is very simple. All you're going to do is go into an add-on. We added a new column and a table next to it if you're an add-on developer, and it's, would you like to participate in license validation? Yes or no. That's it. You don't have to make any code changes. The ExpressionEngine core 6.1 and higher will take care of that. So that ends easy. But the process and the flow, in essence of, okay, do we need add-on developers? I believe the answer is going to be yes. To send an email to clients and say, hey, you're going to have to tie your purchase to a given site license. We have a YouTube video about doing that already for ExpressionEngine Pro licenses, importing the licenses sold elsewhere, making sure the webhooks are set up for add-on developers to receive those. So it's kind of more that process. We want to make sure that we have down very solid for add-on developers before we really kind of open the gates.
Cool.
I was just going to say, we do have it running in our staging environment currently. We have run tests against our staging environment to see it kind of in a production EE site, if you will. I say EE site, we kind of have to change URLs and things like that to hit our staging versus the production licensing, if you will. So, but it is in a fully functioning state.
Not quite on that side of the licensing, but it looks like just eStore licensing and management. Justin asked in the Q&A, are there any updates on license management side of things, like being able to assign add-ons to domains, etc.? So on the end user perspective, managing their licenses in the website and the store.
Yep, it's a great question. So Justin, there's kind of 2 answers to this. One is yes, as add-on developers move towards license validation, there will naturally be a tie. So, the day of a license per add-on associated with ExpressionEngine is basically going to be gone. You're going to have a site license, and then you would tie, kind of like you tie a pro license to a site license. Similarly, you will tie add-ons to a site license. And the site license is ultimately where the domains are tied to. So, staging and production, that is, specifically. So that's one end of it. The other end is kind of what do you do, or how do we want to go about updating add-ons that decide not to participate in license validation? Do we want to give a tag or something like that? we will cross that bridge. Our inclination is that the need for that end of the equation, because that's kind of the old paradigm, if you will be decreasing in size compared, as people migrate over to the new paradigm. So I think it's very likely we will add a tag at some point. So, if you have legacy sites from 5 years ago or something, you can tag it with a given domain.
Very cool. All right. Anybody else? Blair says, when is the default theme getting an update?
We're aiming for the 7.3 release for that. It is in progress. It is not polished yet, but it's getting pretty close to polished. So, yeah, good question. And dearly needed. Yeah, it's getting really close.
All right. Anybody else? All right, Tom. Thank you.
Sweet.
Appreciate the update. Good seeing you again.
Absolutely. Good to see you too. And thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, man. All right. Let's get my ending slides up here. Now I get to play the game. All right. So, yes, thank you to everybody. Thank you to Randy and Tom, especially for sharing. Tom, always enjoy the transparency from the team and sharing with the community what's going on. Excited to hear new things that are happening with ExpressionEngine. I know we're all excited about CoilPack and to see what impact that's going to have. Thank you, Randy, for the DDEV presentation and just showing us how really easy it was just to set up DDEV and get a site running just like that. It's always fun to do live coding. I know I've been in front of many people doing that, and it's always kind of sweaty palms moment, but handled it well and everything went smooth, which just is a testament to DDEV there. So again, our sponsors for today and all of our events, Hop Studios, Triple Nerd Score, all of our bronze sponsors, Greenline Creative, Creative Arc, Jub, Prime Incorporated, Conflicts Group, Buzzing Pixels, Noble, Bold and Minded, Mithra 62, Eric, and all you do. Again, I'm not going to harp on it, but we want your support, donate, all that kind of fun stuff to make these events possible. Also, you can support EE Conference just by sharing our posts on Twitter and Mastodon and in the Slack. If you have speakers that you want to see present at our conferences or events, let us know. Reach out to those speakers and have them reach out to us, or let us know and connect us on LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. That's actually a great way to support the team, because a lot of times we're throwing out to the masses, hey, anybody want to speak, so and sometimes that can be kind of a nervous moment for us trying to get speakers and all that. So I mean, even if you don't want to or can't financially support the conference and what we do, just supporting us by helping share our messages and help find speakers and drive these events, that's definitely a way you can support us, and is awesome, and we really appreciate that. All right, so upcoming events, what's next? Obviously March meetup, scratch that one off. Next up, we will see you guys in May at the spring conference. So again, today is going to be the last day for early bird tickets. I know we have lined up a presentation on CoilPack. Of course, hopefully that's going to be released and in the wild by then. Robin's going to do something on Twig. I think, as we confirmed yesterday, we are going to have a conversation / presentation on the G4 analytics stuff. So all the new Google Analytics. We wanted to do that in May before the deadline, so all you guys can get up to date on what to do there. And then I think we have some other presentation too that just need confirmed, but it should be a good day of presentations. Again, just like last year, kind of those 6 talks is what we're looking for, from about 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon there. July 2023 meetup. So a couple months after that, Matt from the EE team is going to do a presentation on add-on development, talk about kind of the new add-on paradigm and look at what you can do with add-on development and start building on top of ExpressionEngine. That date is to be decided, but it will be on a Wednesday, as always, in July. And of course, the Fall Summit in October. Get that last super early bird ticket, or your early bird ticket with your hotel. I will let you know we are going to have some tickets available non-hotel. So if you don't want to stay in the conference hotel, that will be available later this year for the Fall Summit. But I'm telling you, that hotel is awesome, and you really want to be there and be a part of everything that's going on there. So excited for the summit, excited for the spring conference, excited for all that's happening in the ExpressionEngine community. As always, hit us up on Twitter, now on Mastodon. If you guys didn't see that, we're on the PHP Social Mastodon server, so you can find us there as well. Find us in Slack. If you have any questions about DDEV, I'm happy to help out. I know there's several DDEV users. And of course, Randy is in the Discord. You can always go there, and he is excited to answer all of your DDEV questions there as well. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you for everyone's time today. And I will see you guys in May. Bye, guys.